They attacked a remote outpost, then realized it was Earth's elite forces. The war fleet emerged from hyperspace with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Void Render, watching the tactical display show their target. A small, seemingly insignificant human outpost on the edge of what these primitive beings called the Sol system. "Scan complete, Admiral," reported his tactical officer lieutenant. "The facility appears to be a research station. Minimal defenses detected, perhaps 50 to 60 life forms aboard." His mandibles clicked in satisfaction. The Empire had been systematically dismantling human colonies for 3 cycles now, and this would be another easy victory to add to their growing list. These humans were weak, their technology primitive, their military tactics laughably simple. They had shown no real resistance to expansion, surrendering their outer colonies with barely a fight. "Excellent," hissed. "Signal the fleet. We'll make quick work of this station and move on to the next target. The humans will learn that resistance to the Empire is futile." The research station, designated Aurora Station by its inhabitants, appeared unremarkable from the outside. It was a modest collection of interconnected modules, scientific equipment, and what appeared to be basic defensive systems. To the sensors, it looked like countless other human research facilities they had encountered and destroyed. What the aliens didn't know was that Aurora Station had been constructed as something far more significant than a simple research outpost. Hidden beneath layers of scientific equipment and research laboratories was one of Earth's most classified military installations, a training ground for the Solar Defense Force's most elite unit, the Terran Ghost Division. Dr. Sarah stood in the station's primary laboratory, reviewing quantum field equations on her holographic display. To any observer, she appeared to be exactly what her credentials claimed, a brilliant physicist conducting research on exotic matter. Her colleagues saw her as dedicated, if somewhat intense. They had no idea that beneath her scientist's facade lay years of special forces training and combat experience that would make veteran soldiers weep with envy. "Doctor," called out her research assistant, like Sarah, appeared to be nothing more than an enthusiastic graduate student. In reality, he was a former Marine Force recon operator who could kill a man with his bare hands in 17 different ways. "I'm getting some unusual readings on the deep space sensors." Sarah looked up from her work, her expression remaining calm despite the ice that suddenly formed in her veins. "What kind of readings?" "Ships, a lot of them, coming in fast from the vector." Sarah walked over to his workstation, her movements betraying none of the combat readiness that was flooding her system. On the display, she could see the unmistakable signatures of vessels. 12 ships, including what appeared to be a dreadnought-class vessel. "Alert status?" she asked quietly. "Condition yellow," replied, using the code that meant maintain cover but prepare for combat. Throughout the station, other members of the Ghost Division would be receiving the same alert through their neural implants. The beauty of Aurora Station's design was its complete authenticity. Every piece of scientific equipment was real and functional. Every research project was legitimate. The scientists who worked here genuinely were conducting groundbreaking research. The only difference was that half of them were also the deadliest soldiers humanity had ever produced. Colonel James Harrison sat in what appeared to be the station commander's office, reviewing geological survey reports from the nearby asteroid field. His official role was that of the station's administrative director, a desk job that seemed perfectly suited to a middle-aged man who walked with a slight limp from an old injury. The truth was far different. Harrison was the commanding officer of Ghost Division's Alpha Company, a unit so classified that most of Earth's military leaders didn't know it existed. His limp came from a plasma blast he'd taken during a deep reconnaissance mission behind enemy lines, where he had single-handedly destroyed an entire enemy supply depot. His neural implant chimed softly, "Condition yellow." Harrison stood slowly, his movements suggesting the careful motions of a man nursing old injuries. He walked to his desk drawer and what appeared to be a simple data pad. A casual observer would see him accessing administrative files. In reality, he was reviewing the station's defensive capabilities and the status of his 47 team members currently aboard. Ghost Division had been formed in response to humanity's early encounters with alien civilizations. While most first contact scenarios had been peaceful, Earth's military leaders had quickly realized that humans were generally outclassed in terms of raw technology. The solution wasn't to try to match alien tech directly, but to develop tactics and training that would allow human soldiers to overcome technological disadvantages through superior strategy, adaptability, and sheer determination. The Ghost Division took this philosophy to its extreme. Every member was recruited from the top 1% of Earth's special forces. They were then subjected to training that pushed human physical and mental capabilities to their absolute limits. Genetic enhancements were subtle but effective, improving reaction times, strength, and endurance while maintaining complete human appearance. Neural implants allowed for silent communication and enhanced situational awareness. Most importantly, Ghost Division specialized in asymmetric warfare. They didn't fight aliens on the aliens' terms. They created situations where human advantages, creativity, adaptability, ruthlessness when necessary, could overcome alien technological superiority. Doctor was working in the station's botanical laboratory, tending to what appeared to be experimental crop variants designed for low-gravity farming. Her hands moved gently among the plants, checking growth rates and documenting genetic modifications. She looked every inch the dedicated botanist. She was also Ghost Division's explosives expert, capable of creating devastating weapons from common materials found on any space station. The fertilizers in her lab could be combined to create explosives powerful enough to crack a ship's hull. The growth hormones could be weaponized into chemical agents that would leave human physiology unharmed while proving lethal to most known alien biology. When her implant delivered the condition yellow alert, his hands never paused in their work. To any observer, she continued her routine care of the experimental plants. In reality, she was mentally cataloging which of her research materials could be most quickly converted to weapons. The fleet continued its approach, confident and unhurried. Admiral reviewed the intelligence reports on human military capabilities with disdain. Humans relied on kinetic weapons and chemical explosives, primitive technology that any competent defense could easily counter. Their ships were slow and poorly armored. Their soldiers, while occasionally showing surprising determination, lacked the physical capabilities of most spacefaring species. "Admiral," called his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the human station." "Let's hear what they have to say," replied. "Perhaps they'll save us some time and surrender immediately." The main screen flickered to life, showing the face of a middle-aged human male with graying hair and tired eyes. He wore the simple uniform of a research station administrator. "This is Colonel James Harrison, commanding officer of Aurora Station," the human said. "We've detected your fleet approach. May I ask your intentions?" Laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Your intentions should be clear, human. You will surrender your station immediately, and your personnel will be taken as prisoners of war. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your facility." Harrison's expression didn't change. "I see, and if we refuse?" "Then you will die," replied simply. "You have 10 of your minutes to decide. After that, we will take the station by force." The transmission ended, turned to his tactical officer. "Begin attack approach, deploy boarding parties. I want this over quickly." What happened next on Aurora Station would have looked unremarkable to outside observers. Scientists continued their work. Administrative personnel continued their duties. Doctor remained focused on her quantum equations. Doctor continued tending her plants. Colonel Harrison appeared to be reviewing evacuation procedures. In reality, the station had transformed into a military installation with efficiency that would have impressed any combat veteran. Every Ghost Division member knew their role, their objectives, and their backup plans. Weapons were retrieved from hiding places so well concealed that the station had passed 3 separate military inspections without raising suspicion. Combat suits were donned beneath civilian clothing. Neural networks came online, linking every defender into a single, coordinated fighting force. The boarding pods launched 15 minutes later, sleek vessels designed to penetrate enemy hulls and deploy assault troops directly into hostile territory. Admiral watched their progress with satisfaction. Each pod carried 12 elite warriors, more than enough to overwhelm a small research station defended by civilian scientists. The first pod impacted Aurora Station's docking bay with a thunderous crash, its drill nose boring through the station's hull before deploying magnetic clamps to secure the breach. Atmosphere hissed out briefly before emergency seals engaged. The pod's front section exploded outward, and 12 warriors emerged in full combat gear. They found themselves in what appeared to be a standard research station docking bay. Crates of scientific equipment were stacked neatly along the walls. A few maintenance robots continued their programmed routines, apparently unaware of the invasion. Emergency lighting bathed everything in a red glow. "Secure the area," commanded squad leader, or "advance to primary objectives." The warriors moved through the bay with professional efficiency. Their equipment scanned for hidden enemies, their weapons tracked potential threats. Everything seemed normal for a civilian facility. The first warrior died without ever seeing his killer. Doctor emerged from concealment behind a cargo container, her movements flowing with deadly grace. The plasma rifle she carried had been disguised as part of the scientific equipment until moments before. Her shot took the warrior in the chest, bypassing his personal shields with a frequency modulated specifically to counter defensive technology. Before the other warriors could react, the docking bay erupted into chaos. What had appeared to be cargo containers unfolded to reveal concealed firing positions. The maintenance robots shed their harmless exteriors to become mobile weapons platforms. The research station's defenders opened fire with weapons that shouldn't have existed and tactics that spoke of extensive combat experience. Squad leader managed to get off a single transmission before Doctor's second shot ended his life. Contact, heavy resistance, these aren't civilians. Similar scenes played out as the other boarding pods made contact with the station. Pod 2 breached the laboratory section, only to find that Doctor's botanical experiments included a comprehensive collection of chemical weapons. Her modified plant growth hormones, released into the atmosphere, proved as lethal to biology as she had calculated. The warriors stumbled and fell, their respiratory systems shutting down as calmly continued to tend her plants. Pod 3 encountered in what they assumed was a data storage facility. Had spent the last 10 minutes converting the room into an elaborate death trap. Explosive charges hidden throughout the computer equipment turned the breach into a killing zone. The 3 warriors who survived the initial blast found themselves facing a human who moved with inhuman speed and precision, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge their return fire while placing his shots with surgical accuracy. Admiral watched in growing alarm as his boarding parties went silent one by one. The tactical display showed the pod locations, but no movement from his warriors, no progress reports, no calls for support. "What's happening down there?" he demanded. "Unknown, Admiral," replied Lieutenant. "All boarding parties have gone silent. Last transmission indicated heavy resistance." His mandibles clicked in frustration. "Heavy resistance? It's a research station. Deploy the reserve squads and bring us in closer. I want our main guns in position to destroy that facility if necessary." The second wave of boarding pods launched, carrying the cream of the assault forces. These were veterans of a dozen campaigns, warriors who had never failed to secure their objectives. If human civilians had somehow gotten lucky with the first wave, the second would overwhelm them through sheer skill and experience. Colonel Harrison watched the approaching pods from the station's command center, his expression calm despite the carnage being reported through the neural link. His people were performing flawlessly, but he knew the real test was yet to come. The second wave would be more careful, more professional. They wouldn't be taken by surprise as easily. "All units," he transmitted through the neural network. "Phase 2 protocols, switch to mobile defense, make them work for every corridor." Throughout Aurora Station, the Ghost Division defenders abandoned their fixed positions and melted into the station's infrastructure. Maintenance shafts became travel routes. Ventilation systems became sniper positions. Storage areas became ammunition caches. The station itself became a weapon. Every corridor and chamber turned into a potential ambush site. The second wave of warriors found a very different environment than their predecessors. The obvious defensive positions were empty. The station seemed deserted except for the occasional glimpse of movement in the shadows, the brief muzzle flash from an unexpected angle, the sudden appearance of enemies who struck without warning and vanished before return fire could be directed their way. Warriors began disappearing from their squads. A soldier would be there one moment, gone the next, with only a brief sound of struggle to mark his passing. The humans were using the station's own systems against them, manipulating gravity fields to create killing zones, redirecting power to turn everyday equipment into weapons. Sergeant of the 3rd Assault Squad pressed himself against a corridor wall, his squad reduced from 12 warriors to 6 in less than 10 minutes. They had yet to get a clear shot at any of their attackers. The humans moved like ghosts, striking from impossible angles and vanishing before retaliation could be mounted. "This isn't right," whispered Private. "Intelligence said these were scientists." "Intelligence was wrong," replied grimly. "These are soldiers, experienced ones." A sound from above made him look up just in time to see a human warrior drop from a concealed position in the ceiling. The human moved with enhanced speed, striking three of his remaining soldiers before they could raise their weapons. The plasma blade in the human's hand cut through armor as though it were paper. Managed to get his rifle up and fired, but the human was already moving, using the corridor's curvature to break line of sight. Return fire came from an impossible angle and felt the burning pain of a plasma bolt searing through his armor. As darkness closed in around him, his last thought was a realization that would have terrified Admiral had he been able to hear it. These humans weren't just soldiers. They were predators, and the Empire had just walked into their territory. They attacked a remote outpost, then realized it was Earth's elite forces. Admiral stared at the tactical display in disbelief. 2 waves of elite assault troops had entered the human research station. None had reported back. The facility's power readings remained stable, its life support systems functioning normally. To all external appearances, Aurora Station continued operating as a peaceful research facility. "Admiral," Lieutenant's voice carried an edge of concern. "I'm reading massive energy signatures from the station's interior. Whatever's happening in there, it's not standard combat." His compound eyes narrowed as he studied the readings. The energy patterns were unlike anything in tactical databases. Human weapons typically showed simple kinetic or chemical signatures. These readings suggested something far more sophisticated, technology that intelligence reports claimed humans didn't possess. "Prepare the 3rd wave," he ordered. "Double the squad sizes and activate our heavy weapons teams." What didn't realize was that his surveillance systems were being fed carefully crafted false information. Dr. Sarah, in addition to her other skills, was an expert in electronic warfare. From her position in the station's quantum laboratory, she had been systematically compromising sensors, ensuring they saw only what the Ghost Division wanted them to see. The real situation aboard Aurora Station was far different from what the Admiral imagined. Colonel Harrison moved through the corridors with the fluid grace of a natural predator, his enhanced senses tracking multiple enemy positions simultaneously. Through his neural implant, he maintained constant contact with his scattered teams, coordinating a defense that turned the station into a labyrinth of death for the invading aliens. "Status on their fleet positioning," he transmitted silently. "They're moving into optimal bombardment range," Sarah's voice responded directly into his mind. "Estimate 12 minutes before their main guns can effectively target critical systems." "Are your surprises ready?" "Botanical specimens are fully mature and eager to meet our guests," replied with grim humor. Harrison smiled coldly. Phase 2 was proceeding perfectly, but it was time to move to Phase 3. They were about to learn why humanity had survived and thrived in a galaxy full of more technologically advanced species. The 3rd wave of boarding pods hit Aurora Station like metallic meteors, their drill tips punching through the hull at 6 different points. This time, the assault teams emerged with overwhelming force, twice as many warriors per squad, and equipped with heavy weapons designed to reduce fortified positions to rubble. Squad leader led his 24 warriors through the breach point in the station's engineering section. Unlike the previous waves, his team moved with methodical caution, scanning every shadow, checking every potential hiding spot. Their equipment had been reconfigured to detect the energy signatures that had claimed so many of their comrades. "Maintain formation," commanded. "Advance by sections, heavy weapons teams stay ready." The engineering section appeared deserted, but wasn't fooled. The energy readings here were off the scale, suggesting the presence of powerful equipment that didn't match any known human technology. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows among the machinery, creating an environment that could conceal dozens of potential threats. They made it 50 meters before the first attack came. But this time, it wasn't a hidden sniper or an ambush from concealment. Instead, the very machinery around them came alive with hostile intent. What they had assumed were standard power conduits suddenly reconfigured themselves, extending crystalline projections that hummed with lethal energy. The maintenance robots, that had been scattered throughout the area shed their harmless disguises to reveal weapons platforms of devastating capability. But the real surprise was the figure that emerged from behind the central power core. The human appeared to be a maintenance technician, dressed in simple coveralls and carrying what looked like a standard repair tool, or almost dismissed him as a non-combatant. Then the human moved. Enhanced reflexes allowed Sergeant Mike Torres to dodge the initial plasma burst that should have vaporized him. The repair tool in his hands unfolded to become a weapon of elegant lethality, firing projectiles that moved faster than sensors could track. 3 warriors fell before they could react, their advanced armor offering no protection against weapons that operated on principles their scientists had never encountered. Torres rolled behind a power coupling, his movements flowing like liquid death. The engineering section erupted into chaos as hidden weapon systems emerged from concealment, transforming the area into a killing field that all tactical doctrine. "What are these weapons?" Or shouted into his communicator. Our intelligence was completely wrong. The answer came not from his superiors, but from Torres himself, speaking in perfect. Your intelligence assumed we were a primitive species. Your first mistake. Or's eyes widened in shock. Not only did this human speak their language flawlessly, but his accent suggested an intimate knowledge of culture and military structure. Second mistake, Torres continued, his weapon finding targets with impossible accuracy. You assumed this was a civilian facility. Third mistake, you assumed you were the hunters. The engineering battle became a masterpiece of asymmetric warfare. Torres used his intimate knowledge of the station's systems to turn every piece of equipment into a potential weapon. Power flows were redirected to create electromagnetic fields that interfered with equipment. Artificial gravity was manipulated to throw alien warriors off balance at critical moments. Even the station's waste recycling systems became part of the defensive matrix, flooding corridors with substances that were harmless to humans but proved corrosive to armor. Similar scenes played out across Aurora Station as the Ghost Division revealed the true extent of their capabilities. Doctor had converted her botanical laboratory into a nightmare of biological warfare, her modified organisms creating atmospheric conditions that favored human physiology while proving increasingly hostile to alien invaders. Had transformed the data storage facility into a 3-dimensional maze of holographic projections, sensor ghosts, and carefully placed explosive charges. Warriors found themselves firing at targets that didn't exist, while real threats moved unseen through their formations. Doctor had turned her quantum laboratory into something that conventional understanding of space and time. Using experimental field generators, she created localized distortions that made accurate targeting impossible while allowing her to strike at enemies from angles that shouldn't have existed. But perhaps the most devastating revelation came in the station's command section, where Colonel Harrison faced off against the Empire's most elite assault team. The aliens had brought their best warriors, veterans of countless campaigns, equipped with weapons that could level small buildings. Harrison met them with nothing but his sidearm and 40 years of combat experience. The battle was over in 90 seconds. When the last warrior fell, Harrison calmly reloaded his weapon and activated his communication system. All units, report status. The responses came back through the neural network with mechanical precision. 0 human casualties, complete neutralization of all boarding parties, all station systems operating normally. Phase 3 complete, Harrison announced. Initiate Phase 4. Admiral watched in horror as the last of his assault teams went silent. 3 waves of elite warriors had entered that accursed station, and not one had reported back. The tactical display showed no movement, no combat signatures, no indication of what had happened to over 60 of the Empire's finest soldiers. Admiral reported, his voice tight with barely controlled fear. I'm reading energy spikes throughout the station. Something big is happening. What was happening was the revelation of Aurora Station's true nature. The research facility had been built around a weapons platform so advanced that most of Earth's military leadership didn't know it existed. While they had been focused on the boarding parties, the Ghost Division had been preparing to show them exactly why humanity had earned its place among the stars. Doctor's quantum research equipment was actually a prototype field manipulation system capable of generating spatial distortions on a massive scale. Doctors, botanical experiments, included biological agents designed specifically to counter known alien physiologies. The maintenance robots throughout the station were actually autonomous weapons platforms with firepower equivalent to a small fleet. But the most significant revelation was Colonel Harrison himself. His personnel file listed him as a decorated combat veteran with an exemplary record. What it didn't mention was his role in developing the tactical doctrines that had allowed humanity to not just survive, but thrive in a galaxy full of hostile alien civilizations. The Empire had built its reputation on technological superiority and overwhelming force. They crushed resistance through sheer firepower, reducing enemy worlds to submission with weapons that could crack continents. It was a strategy that had worked against every species they had encountered. Humanity had taken a different approach. Recognizing that they would never match alien technology directly, human military theorists had developed doctrine based on adaptability, creativity, and the ruthless exploitation of enemy weaknesses. Where aliens relied on established patterns and proven tactics, humans embraced chaos and unpredictability. The Ghost Division represented the ultimate evolution of this philosophy. Every member was trained not just as a soldier, but as a force multiplier capable of turning any environment into a battlefield that favored human tactics. They didn't fight alien wars on alien terms. They created uniquely human forms of warfare that leveraged humanity's greatest strengths. "Admiral," the communications officer called out urgently, "we're receiving a transmission from the station." Colonel Harrison appeared on the main screen, still wearing his simple administrative uniform. Behind him, Aurora Station appeared completely normal, showing no signs of the battle that had just taken place. He could have been delivering a routine status report. "Admiral," Harrison said calmly, "I believe you've lost some personnel." His mandibles clicked furiously. "What have you done with my warriors?" "They encountered a learning experience," Harrison replied. "Your empire has made certain assumptions about human capabilities. Those assumptions were incorrect." The Admiral leaned forward aggressively. "You are criminals. Those men were conducting a legitimate military operation under the Articles of War." Harrison's expression didn't change. "And we responded under the same articles. Your forces attacked a military installation and were neutralized by its defenders. If you'd like to file a complaint, I suggest you contact Earth's diplomatic corps." "Military installation," sputtered. "Our intelligence clearly identified this as a research facility." "Your intelligence was correct," Harrison confirmed. "We are conducting research. Today's project involves testing the effectiveness of human defensive tactics against assault doctrine. I'm pleased to report that the results exceed our expectations." The implications hit like a physical blow. The entire attack had been anticipated. The humans had been waiting for them, had prepared specifically for this encounter. Everything the Empire thought it knew about human capabilities had been carefully crafted misdirection. "This changes nothing," growled. "One station cannot stand against an entire fleet. We will destroy you from orbit." Harrison nodded thoughtfully. "You're welcome to try, though I should mention that Aurora Station is equipped with certain defensive systems that your intelligence reports probably didn't account for." As if in response to his words, the space around Aurora Station began to shimmer with energy fields that understanding. The modest research facility suddenly displayed power readings that rivaled those of a battleship. Weapons platforms that had been hidden within the station's structure emerged and locked onto the alien fleet. But more disturbing than the weapons were the ships that began appearing on sensors. Human vessels, sleek and deadly, emerging from concealment throughout the system. The aliens had walked into what they thought was an easy target, only to discover they had stumbled into the middle of a military exercise involving some of humanity's most advanced warships. Admiral realized with growing horror that his intelligence had been wrong about everything. The humans weren't a primitive species struggling to survive in a hostile galaxy. They were apex predators who had been allowing the Empire to believe they were weak, defenseless prey. "How many?" he whispered to his tactical officer. His voice shook as he reported the sensor readings. 37 ships, Admiral, all showing power signatures beyond our projections of human capabilities." Harrison's voice came clearly over the communication channel. "Admiral, you have a choice to make. You can withdraw your fleet immediately and report to your superiors that the Empire has seriously underestimated human military capabilities. Or you can attempt to fight your way out of this system and learn firsthand why that would be a mistake. Looked at his tactical display, seeing his proud fleet suddenly surrounded by human warships that had appeared as if from nowhere. Everything the Empire believed about human weakness had been stripped away, revealing a military force that had been planning for this confrontation far longer than he had imagined. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice barely controlled. Harrison's smile was cold and predatory. "I want you to deliver a message to your Empire. Humanity is not the easy prey you believed us to be. Any further attacks on human colonies or installations will be met with responses that escalate far beyond what you experience today." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral staring at a tactical situation that had transformed from certain victory to potential annihilation in the span of minutes. His invasion force was trapped, his elite warriors were gone, and the humans had revealed capabilities that rendered every strategic assessment obsolete. The hunter had become the hunted, and the galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about the species from the third planet of an unremarkable star system. They attacked a remote outpost, then realized it was Earth's elite forces. The silence that followed Colonel Harrison's transmission was deafening. Admiral stood frozen on the bridge of his flagship, watching tactical displays that showed his supposedly superior fleet completely surrounded by human vessels that had materialized from what appeared to be empty space. "Orders, Admiral?" Lieutenant's voice cracked slightly, the professional composure of a career military officer finally showing strain. His mind raced through possibilities, each more grim than the last. The Empire's entire strategic doctrine was based on technological superiority and overwhelming force. Their intelligence networks had spent cycles mapping human capabilities, identifying weaknesses, planning conquest campaigns that should have been simple exercises in subjugation. Everything they thought they knew had just been proven catastrophically wrong. "Run a full-spectrum analysis on those human ships," ordered. "I want to know exactly what we're facing." The tactical officer's hands flew over his console, sensors reaching out to probe the mysterious human vessels. What came back? Explanation. The ships showed power signatures that suggested technology decades ahead of known human capabilities. Their weapon systems operated on principles that science couldn't immediately identify. Most disturbing of all, their positioning suggested they had been lying in wait specifically for this attack. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported with barely concealed terror, "these ships don't match any known human designs. Their technology appears to be significantly more advanced than our intelligence indicated was possible." Colonel Harrison watched the alien fleet sensors probe his ships with grim satisfaction. The human vessels surrounding them were indeed more advanced than official intelligence reports suggested humans possessed. What the Empire's analysts had failed to understand was that humanity's greatest strength had never been raw technology. It was adaptability. For 3 years, human forces had been recovering technology from destroyed ships, analyzing alien tactics from intercepted communications, and developing countermeasures specifically designed to neutralize the Empire's advantages. Every attack on a human colony had been a learning experience, each defeat a lesson in how to fight enemies who possessed superior firepower. The Ghost Division had been tasked with field testing these developments. Aurora Station wasn't just a research facility disguised as a military base. It was a laboratory where humanity's most dangerous soldiers tested weapons and tactics designed to level the playing field against technologically superior enemies. Dr. Sarah emerged from her quantum laboratory, no longer bothering to maintain her civilian disguise. The mild-mannered physicist had been replaced by a figure who moved with deadly precision, her enhanced senses tracking every detail of the developing situation. Through her neural implant, she maintained constant contact with the human fleet's tactical coordinators. "Ghost Actual, this is Science Lead," she transmitted to Colonel Harrison. "Quantum field generators are at full power. We can maintain spatial distortion around their fleet for approximately 4 hours before requiring." "Copy that, Science Lead. Maintain current field configuration. Keep them locked in place until we've had our conversation." The spatial distortions surrounding the fleet were invisible to the naked eye, but devastating in their implications. The human quantum technology created localized alterations in spacetime that prevented faster-than-light travel, effectively trapping the alien ships in normal space, where they could neither escape nor call for reinforcements. Had abandoned all pretense of being a graduate student. His true role as a strategic intelligence specialist came into focus as he coordinated with Earth's deep reconnaissance networks. Through carefully concealed communication arrays, he was uploading real-time tactical data about fleet composition, weapon capabilities, and tactical responses. Colonel reported, Deep Recon assets confirm this fleet represents approximately 12% of known naval strength in this sector. No additional forces are moving to support them. Harrison nodded grimly. Perfect. They're isolated and alone exactly where we want them. Doctor had transformed her botanical laboratory into a chemical weapons facility that would have impressed military engineers from any species. But her current focus was on something far more strategic than battlefield weapons. The biological agents she had developed weren't designed to kill alien invaders. They were designed to demonstrate humanity's capability for biological warfare on a scale that would terrify any species considering aggression against human space. Biological countermeasures are ready for deployment, she reported to Harrison. If they attempt to board any of our ships, they'll encounter atmospheric conditions specifically tailored to physiology. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Harrison replied, but good to know we have options. The reality was that Aurora Station represented just one element of a comprehensive defensive strategy that humanity had been developing for years. While the galaxy's major powers had dismissed humans as a young, primitive species, Earth's military planners had been quietly preparing for the day when someone would test humanity's resolve. Admiral received a priority communication from his fleet's science officer, and what he heard made his blood run cold. Admiral, we've completed our analysis of the human vessels. The technology they're displaying suggests they've been developing advanced systems in complete secrecy. Their ships appear to incorporate principles that our own scientists have only theorized about. That's impossible, protested. Our intelligence networks have been monitoring human technological development for cycles. They're barely capable of interstellar travel. Sir, the evidence suggests that human intelligence capabilities have been significantly underestimated. These ships show clear signs of incorporating technology recovered from multiple alien sources, including our own. The implications hit like a plasma blast to the chest. The humans hadn't just been defending against attacks. They had been studying them, learning from them, adapting and improving with each encounter. Every victory the Empire had achieved had been teaching humanity how to fight back more effectively. Communications, ordered. Open a channel to the human commander. Colonel Harrison appeared on the main screen again, his expression calm and professional. Behind him, the control room of Aurora Station hummed with activity as Ghost Division personnel coordinated with the surrounding human fleet. Admiral, Harrison said pleasantly, I trust you've had time to review your tactical situation. What do you want? Demanded, his voice barely controlled. I want you to understand something very important, Harrison replied. For the past 3 years, the Empire has been attacking human colonies under the assumption that we were a weak, technologically inferior species. Those attacks have stopped being successful. Harrison gestured to his tactical display, which showed the positions of both fleets in stark detail. Your current situation is not the result of lucky timing or superior numbers. It's the result of careful planning, advanced intelligence, and capabilities that your empire has consistently underestimated. This is one battle, growled. The Empire has resources you cannot imagine. I'm sure it does, Harrison agreed, but let me share some information that might adjust your perspective. The main screen shifted to show a galactic map with markers indicating the positions of various fleets throughout the sector. One by one, the markers began changing color as new information updated the display. In the past 6 hours, Harrison explained, human forces have engaged fleets at 14 different locations across this sector. Not a single engagement has resulted in a human defeat. Your empire's naval strength in this region has been reduced by approximately 40%. Admiral stared at the display in horror. The coordinated nature of the attacks, the precision of the timing, the devastating effectiveness of human forces. It painted a picture of military capability that rendered every strategic assessment completely obsolete. "This is impossible," he whispered. "This is the new reality," Harrison corrected. "Humanity has evolved beyond your intelligence estimates. We've been preparing for a larger conflict while your empire assumed we would remain passive victims." Doctor stepped into view beside Harrison, no longer disguising her true nature. "Admiral, I'd like to introduce Dr. Sarah, our specialist in quantum warfare technology. Perhaps she can help you understand the nature of your current situation." Sarah smiled coldly. "Admiral, your fleet is currently trapped within a localized space-time distortion that prevents faster-than-light travel. This technology was developed specifically to counter tactical doctrine, which relies on superior mobility and the ability to withdraw when faced with unexpected resistance. Additionally," she continued, "your ship's defensive systems are currently being mapped by sensors that operate on principles your engineers haven't encountered. We're analyzing your armor composition, shield harmonics, and weapon capabilities in real time." Appeared on Harrison's other side. "From an intelligence perspective, Admiral, I should inform you that human agents have been operating within space for the past 2 years. Your fleet movements, strategic planning, and technological developments have been under constant surveillance." Felt the foundation of everything he believed crumbling beneath him. The Empire had been fighting what they thought was a primitive, disorganized species. Instead, they had been engaging a sophisticated military power that had been playing a far deeper game than anyone had realized. "What do you want?" he asked again, but this time his voice carried the weight of defeat. Harrison's expression softened slightly, but his words carried unmistakable authority. "We want the Empire to understand that the age of easy conquest is over. Humanity is no longer a passive target for alien aggression. We're prepared to coexist peacefully with species that respect our sovereignty," Doctor added, stepping into view. "But any further attacks on human territory will be met with responses that escalate beyond anything you've experienced today." Harrison leaned forward slightly. "Admiral, you have a choice. You can return to your empire and report what you've learned here, helping to prevent a larger conflict that will be devastating for both our species. Or you can attempt to fight your way out and discover firsthand that today's demonstration was merely a small sample of human military capability." The tactical officer whispered urgently to Admiral, "Sir, I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout the human fleet. Whatever weapons they're preparing to deploy, the power levels exceed anything in our databases." Looked around his bridge, seeing fear and uncertainty in the eyes of warriors who had never known defeat. His proud fleet, which had crushed opposition across dozens star systems, was trapped, and by a species they had dismissed as primitive. "If I agree to withdraw," he said carefully, "what guarantees do we have that you won't pursue and destroy us anyway?" Harrison smiled grimly. "Admiral, if we wanted your fleet destroyed, it would already be debris. This conversation exists because humanity prefers to avoid unnecessary casualties when our point can be made through demonstration. However," he continued, "any future aggression against human space will be met with overwhelming force. Your empire needs to understand that we are no longer the easy prey you once believed us to be." Doctor activated a holographic display that showed detailed schematics of ship designs. "As a gesture of good faith, Admiral, we're transmitting defensive upgrades that will protect your remaining vessels against some of the weapons systems you've encountered today. Consider it professional courtesy between military personnel." The irony wasn't lost on Admiral. The humans were offering to help defend against the very weapons they had just used to defeat forces. It was a gesture that demonstrated both technological superiority and strategic confidence that was more intimidating than any threat could have been. "We'll withdraw," he said finally, "but the Empire will not forget this humiliation." Harrison nodded. "We're counting on them remembering it. The next time someone suggests attacking human space, we want that decision made with full knowledge of what the consequences will be." The spatial distortions around the fleet gradually dissipated as Doctor powered down her quantum field generators. One by one, the alien vessels began moving away from Aurora Station, their formation showing none of the aggressive confidence they had displayed upon arrival. As the last ship disappeared into hyperspace, Colonel Harrison turned to his team with a satisfied expression. "Mission accomplished, people. Let's get back to our research. Doctor smiled as she returned to her quantum laboratory, where legitimate scientific experiments continued alongside the weapons development that would ensure humanity's survival in a hostile galaxy. Just another day at the office. Was already uploading intelligence data to Earth's Strategic Command, ensuring that the lessons learned from today's encounter would be incorporated into humanity's evolving defensive doctrine. Doctor returned to her botanical experiments, tending plants that served dual purposes as both scientific specimens and weapons of mass destruction. Throughout the station, Ghost Division personnel resumed their cover identities, becoming scientists and researchers once again. To any outside observer, Aurora Station had returned to being exactly what it appeared, a peaceful research facility conducting important scientific work. But the galaxy had changed. The Empire would report back that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had realized. Other species would hear whispered rumors of human military capabilities that conventional understanding. The age of treating Earth's children as easy prey had come to an abrupt end. In the depths of space, Aurora Station continued its orbit around an unremarkable star, looking for all the world like a simple scientific outpost. And perhaps it was. The best weapons, after all, were often indistinguishable from tools of peace until the moment they were needed. Humanity had learned to survive and thrive in a galaxy full of predators by becoming the most dangerous predators of all. They just preferred to disguise their fangs behind friendly smiles and scientific curiosity. The universe was about to become a much more interesting place.